All right, great. Welcome, sailors. Good to see everyone. My name is Lori Kinstead, and I volunteer with the WYC Yacht Club's membership committee. And tonight is our fourth presentation in the Wanderlust series, and they are recorded, so you can go back and look at the other ones if you missed those. And so tonight, Jeff Dahlin from Dansk is going to share about his sailing trip from Australia to Indonesia. So I will let Jolene say a few things and then we'll get started.
All right, thanks, Lori. So just a few housekeeping items before we launch into the presentation. As Lori mentioned, we are recording the session tonight and we'll post a link to the session on YouTube once it's uploaded. Your video and mic should be off during the program. It helps save on bandwidth and it's less distracting to the presenter. And we would just ask that you keep them off during the session. If we notice any disruptions, we'll turn them off for you. But you won't be able to turn them back on yourself if we do that. So I'd prefer that you turn them off yourself. And then when we get to the Q&A time at the end, then you can go ahead and turn your mics on if you want to ask questions live. You can turn your cameras on if you want. And just so you know, at the Q&A session at the end, we may continue that. And if it's like the last couple of them, we probably will continue that past 8 o'clock if there's still people asking questions. So if you need to log off, that's fine, no problem. You can do so. But then at that time, like I said, feel free to turn on your mics and cameras if you want during that time, or you can put your questions into the chat box. Type them in there at any time during the session or at the end, and we'll do our best to read them all at the Q&A time. If you could just in the chat send them to everybody instead of to me or anybody privately, just so that multiple hosts can see them, that would be helpful. And if we don't get to your question, if you type something in the chat early and we don't get to it, please feel free to type it in again, but we'll do our best to do a scan and get to all of those. And we would just ask that you please hold all the live questions until the end. So with that, take it away, Jeff.
All right, thanks, ladies. Welcome, everybody. Ready to go down under to Australia and Indonesia. As Barb said earlier, I think get your shorts on, turn the heat up, and we'll go down under where the only ice you'll find is in your drink. Welcome, thanks again for showing up. Back in September and October of 2017, I got on the crew of the boat you see on the screen here. And I'll talk a little bit about how that happened and how it started. The story actually kind of starts back in probably about 2010. And my friend Jim Idy invited me to go sailing. And we went on a night crawler at the WYC Yacht Club, and I was on Dansk with Jack Christopherson. After that, I ended up on his crew, and ever since then, I've sailed a couple days a week and ended up buying his boat from him. Fast forward to February of 2017, and it was a cold weekend. And I had kind of been perusing a Facebook site for sail cruising crew finders, and a man named Norm Facey had posted a schedule. He was looking for crew coming up the east coast of Australia and going from Darwin to Indonesia and then across to Madagascar and down to Cape Town, South Africa, about 5-week increments. And I just kind of took a wild hair and I friended him and said, hey, I sail boats here on the lake in Minnesota. What do you think? I'm interested in your Darwin to Jakarta leg. And what he does is he checks people out on Facebook, and he said to me, or he messaged, said, oh, you look like fun, come on down. So then had kind of a decision to make, and I checked him out on Facebook, and on Googled, and he had run paper mills in Canada. He was a Canadian from Campbell River, British Columbia, and he had a website for DreamCatcherMarine.blogspot, which is on the screen there, and it showed how he actually built this boat himself, and he had some video of him sailing it. He just seemed like a real easygoing guy, and so I kind of decided I would go, and then, you know, I would have to close my business for 5 weeks, and the leg I was going to do is during the Renaissance Festival, and I have a shop at the Renaissance. I was going to have to miss 5 weeks of that, and I can't say how many nights I laid awake worrying about, you know, what if I get sick? What if I get hurt? I've never sailed on the ocean. I could get seasick. There's sharks. What about, everybody's asking me about pirates, you know, what if I don't get along with the guy or the other crew person? So, and I kind of told him, I said, I'd like to at least talk to you on the phone before I, you know, commit to going. So he called me and we talked for a while, kind of explained some of the rules of the boat and, you know, the expenses, basically where I would have to get to Darwin, Australia, and home from Jakarta, pitch in for food and beverages and any of the on-land stuff that we did. He said there were no drugs and they're frowned on in Indonesia, and no guns. Said, okay, that's no problem. So then I talked to my partner in crime at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival about whether I could go or I should go, and expressed all my concerns. And she said, you know, I know how much you love sailing and adventure. And she said, you know, if you don't go, I will kill you. All right. So I guess the decision's made. So I got my flight, and the next step was getting a visa to Indonesia, worked with the consulate in Chicago, and they're kind of more geared towards business people who are going there for business, or they're going to Bali or some other island to sit on the beach at a resort, that type of thing. And it was, they weren't too used to what I wanted to do. Where are you going to stay? Well, I'm coming in on a boat, and we're going to be going along island hopping, and, you know, and once they actually called me and I explained it to them. So we did end up getting a visa, and I took off for Darwin, Australia. This is the boat. It is a V95 Bruce Roberts design, 50-foot steel hull cutter rig. And Norm actually welded this boat together himself. You get all the parts, and if you go to this DreamCatcher Marine blog spot down here, there's pictures of him working on it and stuff if you're interested in seeing all of that. So it's a cutter rig. There's 2 forestays with furling sails. There was we had solar panels back here, 1 on each side, 2 anchors, a big plow anchor here. One of my jobs was to drop the anchor. So anyway, Norm knew this boat inside and out because he put it together himself. So here, the next slide. This is kind of to orient you on where we went. This is Indonesia, kind of takes up half of the island of New Guinea. You can kind of see where it's situated here, north of Australia, and the Philippines are here, Vietnam, Malaysia. And so we started here. This is Darwin in the Northern Territories of Australia. We sailed across the Timor Sea. That is about 550 nautical miles. We checked into the country here in Kupang. We were there for a few days. We sailed up this here, this is the island of Flores. We stayed a night here, went up through this little strait. This is where Komodo National Park is. And then we sailed along here. This is Lombok, and this is Bali right here. We never did sail to Jakarta. Norm made the rather wise decision not to go there. It's a very busy port with lots of freighters and so forth. So he checked out of the country here in Bali. Just a little bit about Indonesia. It's 17,000 islands stretching over about 3,000 or more miles across the ocean here. That's the fourth largest population in the world at 270 million. So a lot of these cities very crowded. The currency is the rupiah, and there are 14,000 rupiahs in a US dollar. So you got these Indonesian bills with lots of zeros. There's up, 100,000 rupiah notes. Anyway, in our leg of the trip, we figure it was about 1,300 nautical miles. So here we go. This is a few pictures of the interior of the boat. There's Captain Norm over here in the kitchen. We really had a deluxe kitchen, 4-burner stove that tilted, and hot and cold running water, a refrigerator. We even had a microwave oven that we could use. So whoever cooked, the other people did the dishes, so we switched that up, and we heated water every morning. Those two, Norm's Canadian, Monique, the other crew person you'll meet in a little bit here, she was Australian. They drank tea and I drank coffee. This was my bunk over on this picture here. On the right, that was to be my home for 5 weeks. Bathroom was across the hall here. Monique was in the triangle berth up here. This big metal door that goes to the chain locker or the anchor chain locker. And the floors all lifted out, and we had that packed with food and beverages and so forth. The center picture, this is the council down in the cabin. This is the nerve center of the boat, really. All the electronics ran through here. There's a bank of switches over here. You could steer it from here if you wanted to. We never did. You can see all the cords hanging from there. This was the charging center for all of our iPads and cameras and whatever else we had. This is the main navigation. Up here we had AIS on this and communications system, and then we had a speaker also. We could listen to music. That's a cordless speaker. So, and one of the things he told me was bring some new music. I'm tired of my playlist. So anyway, this is us at this is DreamCatcher at the dock in Darwin. We spent about 5 or 7 days here. This gentleman, his name's Stu. He's doing a little body work. Norm had gotten run into by a catamaran somewhere along the way, broke one of his stays and some of the lifelines over here. So he was having some body work done, and we were waiting for a part also. And this is the cockpit here. This is how you get down below. There was about 3-4 step little ladder there to get down. And the helm, we hardly ever used the helm. We used it only when we were coming in or going out of a port. Otherwise, we were on autopilot or used a little push button thing. This is the marina we were in, some boats there. And it's kind of interesting. The marina, the water level stays the same level. Here in Darwin, the tide swings are about 20 feet. So with this marina, there's a little lock to get in and out of it so your boat isn't going up and down. And this boat in here, there's a woman, her name was Jackie. She was a friend of Norm's, and she was sailing around the world by herself. And this is her in the lock. She was heading off across the Indian Ocean, going to Christmas Island. And we did run into her later. She had an emergency and pulled into Kupang. And here she is out pulling out into the bay there in Darwin. And this is when the tide goes out, kind of the same picture. Here we are. We're in the lock here, going out. This is leaving. There's the harbor master. He runs the lock. And we had a rental car for the week before. We went to the Darwin Sailing Club, and here we are at the Sailing Club. What would a yacht club be without beer? And meet Monique. This is Monique. She was an Australian gal. She had sailed with Norm before for 5 weeks, so she knew the boat quite well. Really, really nice person, very talented sailor. Just happy. We really lucked out with everyone here. Norm was a big teddy bear of a guy, just a very good sailor, good navigator, problem solver, everything a sailor needs to be. And with me, I was kind of a novice. He was very patient and strong at the same time. Just couldn't have asked for a better captain. And our first stop here, we had to replace the depth finder in the hull. And so one of the ways you do that, rather than lifting your boat out here, you pull into a grid, it's called, and you tie up to these poles like this, and then you just wait for the tide to go out, and there you are. There's 25 tons of boat sitting there, and you can work on your boat. And so Monique and my job for the day was to scrub off the hull, and you can see the front part we've cleaned. Had this ablative paint. I was just covered with ablative paint, and it's running off here, so we'd scrub and hose it down. Plus it was hot as can be, and us Scandinavians, we don't particularly like heat. But anyway, this is a sign for the Dinah Beach Yacht Club where we were, and they had a restaurant bar on shore. So you basically have about 6-8 hours you can work on your boat, and then the tide comes back in, and we had a few tense moments because the next high tide that we were supposed to go out on was about 6 inches lower than the tide we came in on. And it was high tide, and we were not moving. And Norm had the engine going in reverse, trying to back out. And what we did was we ran one of the biggest lines we had over to the side of the marina, and Monique hooked it up to a cleat there, and I had the rope on a winch, and I was winching this rope and just hoping it wasn't going to break, because I'm trying to pull a 25-ton boat off of the grid. And the tide must have come up just a little bit, just enough, and we got out of there. All these Australians were watching us, and a big cheer went up, and so we got out of that marina, and here we are. We're on our way to Indonesia. As you can see, it was pretty flat. There wasn't a lot of wind in the Timor Sea here, and we motored for 4 days straight. And this picture down here, one of the sunsets. Every night was we had a sunset, every day at 4 o'clock, Norm said, it was rum o'clock, we called it. And so I got real good. He drank grapefruit juice and rum. So a common, is it rum o'clock yet? And so my job was to mix up the rum and let's see. So this is how our days were spent here. There's Monique in the cockpit, and I was often over here. Norm was sometimes down below plotting a course. And this is from the helm here. Mostly what we steered with was this little box here. And if you pushed this button once, the tiller would turn you 1 degree. And if you pushed it and held it, it went 10 degrees. And then up here, he would mount his iPad with the course on it. Here's a closer up view of it up here. This is our course and this is us. So you try to kind of keep to the course. And this is the AIS screen down below with all the data on it, our speed and our distance to our next point and time. Course and water speed, wind angle, all that. This is us right here, DreamCatcher with all our data. These are other boats. When they would, if they got too close, they would turn red, and then you would maybe take some action. This is the island we were going to at this point. We caught 1 fish out across there. We just put out a line behind the boat and we caught this. It was either a tuna or a mackerel, I can't remember. You'll see Norm's tattoo here. Norm was a shellback, it's called, because he went across the equator, so he got a tattoo, and we turned that fish. We made sushi one night. We had some seaweed leaves, we wrapped them up, little wrapper there. Here's some more sunset pictures. It's me up on the pointy end. There was a little seat there. This picture here, we're coming into Indonesia here, Indonesian waters. And the tradition is you fly a flag of the country that you're in. We didn't have an Indonesian flag, so we made one out of a red t-shirt and a white towel. And then the other flag Norm's putting on, there's a yellow quarantine flag. So you fly that until you've made it through customs and immigration and so forth. This is coming into Indonesia. We saw a lot of these freighters like this. This is the city of Kupang right here where we anchored. There were always locals who would come out with their boats and want to sell you diesel fuel, and we'd give them, we had a whole bunch of 5-gallon jerry cans, and they would take them and fill them up. Norm would make sure they got the best grade of diesel, and that's our dinghy or Zodiac there. Just a few pictures of Kupang, what Indonesia was like. These are colectivos, these buses here, very loud music, all decorated up, and they would go around the island of Timor. This is us at the local hangout on shore. There's Jackie. I remember you said we'd see her again, and here she was. She came into port on an emergency basis. You don't want to show up in these ports here without proper paperwork or permission. You can come in on an emergency basis for about 24 hours or 48, I can't remember what it is. And this person here, this is Frankie Menifee, a person Norm had hired. He's like our liaison, and he was indispensable in getting us to all the places we needed to go to. We had to go take care of our immigration, all our passport and visa. That was one place. We had to go through customs. They came out and inspected the boat And then we had to go talk to the harbor master, and he was a great guide for all of that, and well worth what Norm paid him. And then we went out to dinner one night at a market, and I can't say enough good things about the Indonesian people. They were all friendly and kind and just happy. I had asked these girls if I could take their picture, and they were so pleased. Lots of market pictures. We went to the market there. I could spend a lot of time this is all different kinds of rice. This is sugarcane sugar right here. We bought some of that and put in our coffee. Frankie took us on a little day trip. These are rice fields that he owned. We stopped its musical instrument. This is called a sasando, and it's plucked. The strings go down the middle. There's a guy playing it. Sounds a little bit like a harp. We went to a waterfalls. You can feed the monkeys. There's Monique feeding monkeys. And then we were off from Kupang. This is the island of Flores. We stayed in a little bay in here one night, and we're from our Anchorage. This is an Indonesian vessel here, a little boat. They're out here hunting lobsters, snorkeling around. They came over and tried to sell us lobsters. They wanted about 30 bucks, so Norm said no. You can see the shoreline here was rather inviting from where we were. And this was one of the scarier moments, or I think back, and where we could have really had a problem. Monique and I were ready to drop the dinghy and go into shore and walk around. And then we saw this. You probably can't really see it, but that is a Komodo dragon in the wild. And it's actually chewing on a turtle shell. And these lizards can get 10 to 12 feet long. They're the largest reptile in the world, and they are poisonous. Their saliva is poisonous, and it can kill you. And if we wouldn't have seen that, we might have gone in here and gone into the woods or gotten surprised by one. And as I told Monique, all I would have had to do was be faster than you. So, you can go to Komodo National Park, and that's where we went next. This is the Anchorage at Komodo National Park. There's two locations for the park, and pretty much the only way to get there is by boat. And so we stopped there. These are a few pictures from there. They feed them well here, so they're pretty docile. They won't hurt you. And we had a guide that showed us around. This is our Anchorage. This is DreamCatcher out here. You can see the scenery is absolutely beautiful. This is from up on the hill. Norm over here is standing in front of a tree. They're displaying some bones they found. These things will take down like buffalo and deer and stuff. And this is in the Anchorage. One way to get there, this is a liveaboard that came and anchored. And you can do some diving, scuba diving here. There's great diving around Komodo. You can dive with the manta rays. And a neat picture of a Indonesian boat. And then our next stop, we sailed along the shore of Nusa Tenggara, it was called. And this is Mount Api. It's an active volcano on an island. There's some small villages here. You can see this is smoke from the volcano. This was our next anchorage here, and this is an island called Madang, and we anchored here for a day, and we went to the beach here. We took the dinghy in, put it on the beach. You can see a junk rig here. This is DreamCatcher. The local kids really loved climbing around on this. They were very friendly, and we asked if there was a town in there, and this lady had her 2 daughters take us into the town, and we were like the Pied Pipers. The kids just loved it. Typical home. They're up on stilts. Here's just a few more pictures. This is the local water here. I don't think any of these homes had running water. There's a local store. And another sunset picture to some of the scenery at night. There's that junk rig we saw earlier. This is our next Anchorage. It's Madonna Bay Marina. This is on the north shore of the island of Lombok. And this is the front office right here. Very nice. There's Norm checking in. We dropped off a couple bags of laundry. They would do laundry, and you'd pick it up a couple days later. And this banner here is for a rally they have each year called Sail Indonesia. And in 2017, they had about 60 boats that did it. You can sign up, and they leave from Australia in July, and they come up through Australia. And it's a good way to go. They take care of all the paperwork and everything for you. And we met a lot of people that were on this, and they were fun to talk to. This is these are some ferry boats that come into the north of Lombok. They come from other islands. They're very colorful. This island out here is one of what's called the Gili Islands, G-I-L-I. There's 3 of them. They're kind of tourist islands, and we did go out there, and this is me by a tsunami sign. What to do in a tsunami? Run like mad.
You get beer.
That's right, have a beer.
That's
These
what it
are
looks
some boats
like.
going out to the Gillies. And this one's probably coming back with cardboard for recycling. This one's going out with Bintang beer. That was pretty much the only beer we saw there. Indonesia is kind of a pretty dry country as far as alcohol goes. And this was our Anchorage there on Lombok. These were some of the people that we met. This is Eddie. He was a British expatriate. He owned the place, and this is his office here. And he had an ever-present cup of coffee and a cigarette. This is Lizanne and her husband. They were French Canadians and sailing around the world. I think they were in this area for another year. Still in touch with them on Facebook. This is Eddie. He was a German guy sailing around by himself, and he was here kind of indefinitely. Just a couple more pictures of some of the transportation around there and a mosque. Indonesia has several religions. They're predominantly Muslim, but there's Buddhists and Hindus and Christians as well. Some more kids along the beach. They just love to play around. There's an old wooden boat was on the beach. Another view of our Anchorage here at Madonna Bay. There's DreamCatcher right there. We took a glass bottom boat out to the Gili Islands. There's Norm over here. He was going to scuba dive. And we met a bunch of these, all these people are from Denmark, and they were on another boat, sailboat. They came with us. We were going to snorkel. This is a shrine here to Ganesha. Ganesha is the Hindu god. Looks like an elephant. You can't really tell here, but it's god of knowledge and wisdom and writers. And this is coming into the Gili Island here. This is snorkeling. sculpture that had been put under water. And this is Monique with some time up on the front. This is coming into Bali. This is Mount Agung right here. It was also an active volcano, and it was threatening to erupt when we were there. And it was kind of big news in this country. And I was getting messages from all my friends, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And here we were, right pretty much at the base of it. Here's some other photos. These were little fish boats, real early one morning. And there'd be about 20, 30 of these little guys, outriggers, just flying along. They'd be planing. I bet they were going probably 25 knots or so. This here is what's called a FAD, or a fish attraction device. Could be kind of a hazard. The Indonesian fishermen would put these out there and anchor them, and the fish would congregate underneath them, and then they would come out and net up the fish. So you really had to be careful. You didn't want to hit one of those, especially at night. This was the boat those Danish people were on that we went out. This is on Gili Island. One of the things, you hang out in these cabanas and you can drink beer and rest. There's some more of those little fisher boats sailing along. There's Mount Agung again. And in 2018, this area did get hit by a fairly substantial earthquake, and there was a lot of damage to it. This is now on the north coast of Bali, and it was Norm's 62nd birthday. This is another one of his friends, is another woman here. There she is again. She's sailing around the world by herself a lot of times. And here we were at the local hangout on shore there. And this was a woman that was on crew for her for a while. We went and had a massage. They soak your feet in water with petals. This is the courtyard of the little spa we went to, and Norm got a massage for his birthday. Some Balinese architecture, just very ornate. I went on a little inland tour. These next pictures are kind of on the inland. It's beautiful, nice waterfalls. This was a Buddhist park we stopped at. We went to the town of Ubud, which is kind of another main town where people go. It's a lot of spas there, do yoga and stuff like that. Here's some terraces. They're growing coffee. Market there, monkey park, and you can buy yourself a carved monkey skull. I put this picture in. This is along the road in Indonesia a lot of times, and it's just kind of a reality. You saw a lot of beautiful pictures of the scenery in Indonesia. This is one of the realities along the way. They're drowning in plastic and plastic bags, and unfortunately, you just sort of get numb or used to seeing this sort of thing everywhere. We then, since Norm had decided not to continue on to Jakarta, we went back around the east side. We were going to check out at the main town called Denpasar, and we stopped at this island, and this is Lambogan. And these secluded beaches. This is kind of the Anchorage here, lots of bars along the shore. This was our Anchorage. Here's DreamCatcher out here. This is kind of our Anchorage. There was a structure out here near us. Every day this catamaran would pull up and hundreds of Japanese tourists would get off, and loud music and partying, and they'd boat around like this, screaming. And then about 3 o'clock, they'd load up and they'd be gone. And this is one of the ferry boats that comes over from Bali. And I took this one because you can see there's 8 200 horsepower motors on the back of that thing. And I don't know why they just don't have one big motor, but anyway, coming soon to Lake Minnetonka, I'm sure. Another beautiful sunset. We were here for a couple of days, and then this is a couple more pictures around Lombogan there. It's on Bali. There was a sea turtle sanctuary, and there were certain times you could, if you made a donation, you could release a sea turtle into the ocean. And shot us some cats I saw. This was our final anchorage here, and just kind of a pretty boat and a nice scene that we saw. This was where we got off the boat. The next crew people came on. We got to meet one of them. And then Monique and Norm offered to fly us to Jakarta, since that's where our flights were. And this is a Lion Air flight. And Lion Air is rather famous for having that first crash coming out of Jakarta, and this looks like it's a 737. You can get flights all over Indonesia. They're quite reasonably priced, 25 bucks. We flew to a city on Java called Yogyakarta, which is, there's a lot of beautiful things to see there. But this was kind of the end of our sailing trip. And so that's where we'll end here. Yeah.
Jeff?
Lori or Jolene, you want to?
Yep. So
thanks, everybody. We'll see you at the club, and if you have questions, hang around here. Thanks for watching.
Go ahead and stop. Sorry, Lori. Stop. Why don't you stop sharing your screen, Jeff? So there you go.
Thanks, Jeff. And thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah,
sorry,
you're welcome.
Go ahead.
No problem. So Jeff, I'm just going to read the questions that are in the chat.
Okay.
And then if people want to unmute themselves and ask questions, they can do that. So the first question is from Gary Malinowski. Asked if you had any problems with language. He saw several signs in English. Was that typical or normal?
Yeah, we tried to learn some Indonesian along the way. Not much I can remember right now anymore. But you learn how to say, like in the markets, how much, and do a lot of pointing. As I said, and you learn some of the numbers and so forth. And a lot of them knew English too, so wasn't too big of a problem.
Great. And then Charlotte asked, did the boat captain make all of the arrangements ahead of time? And had he done this sail before the 2017 sail?
He made all the arrangements to get the boat into the country, and it was a phenomenal amount of paperwork to take care of to get that into the country. But yeah, he took care of all of that paperwork for the boat. Like I said, I had to take care of getting my visa for Indonesia. But he was a sail cruising, and he had been sailing around the world for like a year. And after we got off, he went across the Indian Ocean, around the north end of Madagascar, down through that channel. He was at Cape Town, by Christmas time. And what would happen is his wife would fly out and sail with him sometime. Kind of interesting story that when he was building the boat, she kind of said one of her qualifications was that she wanted a bathtub. So the captain's quarters actually had a bathtub in it. So
that's great.
after Cape Town, he went across the Atlantic to Brazil, and then up the coast. He spent a few months, I think, up on the Hard in Trinidad, and then he was around there for a while. He did ask me to join his crew again. I could have gone through the Panama Canal and out to the Galapagos Islands, but I just couldn't quite swing it. So, yeah, any more?
Okay, yeah. So just quickly, could you just briefly go over how you got connected with people for this trip again?
I found Norm on a Facebook sail cruising crew finder site, and he had posted a schedule, and he was looking for crew and pretty much to do a 5-week stints. And so I messaged him and I friended him, and then he said, yeah, come on down. And so I did. And you know, all the preparation that I had to do that. But there's quite a few sites out there if you're interested. And one site that I watched, if you're interested in sail cruising, there's some blogs or video blogs on YouTube, and SV Delos, I kind of watched that a little bit, if anybody has seen that. And that's about a group of people, and they post videos of their adventures.
Okay, great, thank you.
And
Joy Paul asked, what was the balance of time sailing versus staying on land?
Once we got to Indonesia, we would sail 1, maybe 2 days to our next Anchorage, and then we'd stay there for a couple of days or however long. So I suppose maybe 25% of our time was spent sailing, or you know, getting to our next Anchorage. I found you know, and as you can tell from my slides, the boat was a good way to get to places, and I enjoyed what we did on land. Often we'd go to a port, and Norm would stay on the boat, and Monique and I would go ashore. So
great. And Barb asked, do you still keep in touch with the crew?
I do. Yep. I keep in touch with Monique, and through emails and Facebook, and Norm as well. I'll probably send them the link to this, so they'll be able to see it. I think Norm liked that I took a lot of pictures, and I shared them on Facebook as we went along. His cell phone, he got a SIM card for Indonesia, so whenever he was within range of a cell tower, we had internet. One of the most surreal things that happened, we were sailing along the coast of Bali, the north coast of Bali, and it was real early one morning, and I was up in the cockpit with my cup of coffee, and I was posting on Facebook, and all of a sudden I got a message from one of my friends at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. Due to the time difference, they were sitting around upstairs at the end of the day, and so one of my friends saw that I was on Facebook, so he messaged me, and I thought, well, let's try a video conference. And so we signed on, and all of a sudden I was upstairs at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, and I was half a world away, and I'd hold my iPad up and I could say, hey guys, that's Bali going by over there. You know, that was kind of cool. And Norm and Monique were downstairs having breakfast, and Norm comes up and he says, who are you talking to up there? And I said, Norm, I'm at the Renaissance Festival.
Oh, that's great. Ken asked, did you have to get your visa before leaving the U.S. or did you just get it on arrival?
No, I had to get it before I left, and I dealt with the Indonesian consulate in Chicago, and as I said before, they were a little unused to the way that I was coming into the country, and like I said, they're used to tourists who want to come and sit at a resort or something, or business people. So yeah, we had to get that before we left. And Norm got his in Darwin. There's an Indonesian consulate there, and Monique got hers in Australia.
Okay.
So,
let's see. Oh, and how long did it take to get the visa?
it took probably a week or two. I had to mail my passport, or I FedExed it to the consulate in Chicago with all the paperwork. And we had to get a letter from, you saw that person in Kupang, Frankie Menifee. He had a letter that sponsored us, basically. And he told me that while we were in Indonesia, he was basically responsible for us. So he said, don't do anything stupid.
John Speltz wants to know if you had any boat issues along the way.
Pretty minor ones. Probably we had to change a water filter once. We could make our own water on here, and we changed that once. Probably the worst thing that happened, the toilet plugged up, or the head plugged up, and it was just gross. And yeah, it just was not going down. It was supposed to suck the water out of it, and ended up being the one who stuck my hand down in there and cleared it all out.
Oh man. Any concerning or interesting weather along the way?
We really didn't have any really heavy weather the whole way. I suppose maybe the most we had might have been like some 20-knot winds, but nothing where we really had to batten down the hatches or anything. And actually, Norm, he did kind of apologize that we didn't get to sail as much as he would have liked to.
All right. And Andy asked, did you say Norm built it himself, and how did it sail?
Yeah, Norm, it took him about 12 years to build that boat. And I think you get all the pieces, all the steel. And if you go to that website at the beginning, there's some pictures of them putting the hull all together and everything. But it was a beautiful boat, I thought, and it sailed really well. It has a few sister boats around the world, and I think a lot of the people that we met sailing this boat was kind of the envy of them. And you know, and in the sail cruising world, there's a bit of a debate on whether you do monohull or catamarans, and some of those catamarans are very, very beautiful. We met one family that was living on their catamaran. They were from Chicago, sailing around for, I don't know, a year or more. Then they had kids and they were homeschooling them on the catamaran, basically.
Oh, wow. All right. I think I got all the questions in the chat. Does anybody want to ask a question live?
Oh, hey, Jeff, it's Craig Smith. No question.
Hi, Craig.
Thank you for sharing. That was really fascinating. It sounds like it's a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. I really like that you shared your fellow Renaissance paper maker said you had to go or she'd kill you.
Yeah, everyone was very supportive. You know, all my clients, I prepared them. You know, I have a lot of regular clients. I said, I'm going to be gone 5 weeks. And they said, oh, we understand. It's fine. Great. Go have fun. And so worked out really well that way.
Nice presentation, Jeff.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone want to unmute themselves and ask live?
Mute.
Oh.
Jeff, it's Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yep,
hear you.
we can hear you.
Okay. When you were sailing like 2 to 3 days to go to another place, did you sail at night or did you anchor somewhere and then?
We didn't generally sail in Indonesia at night. When we went from Australia to Kupang, that was 4 days straight at sea, and then we were motoring at night. So we took shifts, and we had, my shift was from 8 to midnight, and then Norm would come on, and he was on from midnight to 4. And then Monique would come on from 4 to 8. Basically, what we had to do was watch for other boats and look on the horizon for lights from freighters. And
no pirates?
No pirates.
No pirates?
No. We a lot of times when we were anchored, we didn't even lock up the boat, you know, the hatch or anything. Yeah. We just felt safe the whole time, and I never felt unsafe at all the whole time. So
all right. I've got another question in the chat. Corey Peterson was asking, what were the tides like in Indonesia?
Tides were not as pronounced as they were in Darwin. In Darwin, they were about 20 feet swing. In Indonesia, they were, I can't remember exactly, but you know, maybe 6 to 10 feet swing. Okay. So we was one thing we usually, you know, we kind of had to consider when we anchored, make sure we were in deep enough water.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any questions that they want to ask? All right, Laura, you want to close us out?
Sure, happy to. So thank you so much, Jeff. That was really fun, and I'm really I'm liking the idea of Rummel clock. That is something fun.
Was one thing that sold me. He said, "Yep, every day we have happy hour at 4."
Sold, you said. Okay, good. That's great. All right. Well, if you enjoyed tonight's presentation, we've got another one coming for you in a couple of weeks on March 23rd at 7 o'clock. We've got Janine Jarnis and Gary Malinowski, and it's called To Catch a Thief, Adventures Among the French and Italian Riviera. So that sounds pretty intriguing. And then a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Tomorrow there is a virtual regatta at 7 p.m. And Thursday there's going to be happy hour at 5 p.m. And so you can just check your weathermark for all of those details if you want to be a part of those things. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and look forward to another one in a couple weeks. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. See you at the club.
Yep.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight.
Thanks all your help, Jolene, putting the slides
You're
together.
welcome. Yeah, no problem.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Jeff, thank you very much. Nice job. That was exciting to see the adventure there. And
Yeah, certainly was.
the British guy with the coffee, I can understand that. Cigarette, I'm not so sure about. But, you know, so.
He was full of good information too. He was a great guy.
Yeah, there's one or two of us around. So, Lori and Jolene, thank you very much for co-hosting. I'm glad you. Thanks for putting it together. It was a very fun evening. Appreciate it.
No
Have a good night,
problem.
everybody. Hope to see you at the club soon.
All right. Good night.